Hi everyone, I'm going to make another video today about a home ed schedule. How would you schedule your day if you're starting home ed? And specifically, I'm going to talk about young children, so children in Key Stage 1, reception up to Key Stage 1, maybe the early Key Stage 2 stages. So, 4 to 8, 4 to 9 approximately. A lot of learning happens before that. Make sure you are playing educational games. You can watch educational videos together, do activities before they reach that age. But I'm talking about really the time frame between 4 and 8, where I've made some notes. So what I think you should do is what I did when my kids were young. I had 4 kids close together, so I was very tired. One bit of advice a home ed mom gave me that had older kids was, when the kids are very young, really prioritize math and English. It's not that you don't want to do the other subjects. You can do them when you have good days, but if you've had a bad night and you're gonna have to get through the day, make sure you prioritize your maths and your English, and then the others can follow if you can plug them in. But don't feel bad, especially in the young stages, if you can't get them in every day. Focus on maths and English. Okay. The first point is that with workbooks and textbooks, I would try to source them from free locations if you can find things at the library. If not there, places like WH Smith and Poundland, and even online sources like Amazon now have a lot of workbooks you can get. But don't spend too much time doing workbooks and textbooks. Keep it brief when they're young. Their attention spans are short. They need to move around. So I would aim to spend between 10 to 20 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes per subject for English and math. Those are the two subjects I'm prioritizing. 10 to 20 minutes per subject for your child. And that doesn't have to be all at once. If they get fidgety, say, okay, we're going to do 5 to 10 minutes now, then we're going to go do some exercise, and we're going to come back and do some later. You can break it up. There is no reason they have to sit for that amount of time. And I know this is going to probably sound, very foreign for children who have to sit in school for many hours at a time. But if they get their fidgeting out throughout the day, then hopefully it will just help to keep them calmer, overall. They need to move around, so maybe spend some time moving around in between sessions of actually doing some written work. Also, written work, you do want to focus on them forming their letters. Don't feel too bad if they're a bit sloppy. Work through it. Some kids are better at forming them than others. Don't dismiss the formation of letters and writing, but don't worry if your child takes longer to develop that skill than someone else's child. At school, they're forced to meet certain targets, but at home, that target can come later. And a lot of work that I had my children do, even up to the end of Key Stage 2, was oral. So if there was a question where it was asking for them to write it, I would have them give an oral answer. And then we developed the writing skills. They could write, but the writing skills, the true writing skills of writing in paragraphs and writing extensively, in large amounts and for a long period of time, that started to develop, and I pushed that later on. So their ability to answer out loud and to think and to communicate verbally was the skill that I worked on with them a lot in the younger stages. Of course, if they're excited to learn how to write their letters, you want to hone in on that and build on that excitement and continue to help them flourish in that. So find activities or workbooks or things that they enjoy, that they want to do, and let them continue developing that. If they're not as excited, you can try to just limit the amount of time that you spend on that skill, but don't dismiss it completely. They need to work on it, but it can be in smaller amounts. Okay. So some of the resources I was going to comment on, library books are free. In certain areas, you can, I don't know if this is still the case, but in our area, there's a special home ed library card where we can check out more books for our children. and we can request books for them. It's a really great resource. But just check with your local library. Tell them you're a home educator and see if they have anything available for you to use, because I've really used our library extensively over the past almost 20 years. Okay, so Biff and Chip books. They're the Oxford Reading Tree series. They're really great for learning to read. I've just made a list here. The Biff and Chip books, like I said, Oxford Reading Tree, I think that's called. It's a program that goes from phonics, early phonics stages, all the way to, you know, reading full sentences. It's a great resource. You can find them at the library usually, and there are other resources like that you can borrow for free. There are CGP books for every subject, every level you can think of. I buy mine from Amazon, but you can get them from other places too. W.H. Smith, I've used a lot of those books. I've mentioned this earlier in the video. They make their own books, but they also sell Collins books and CGP books. Twinkle is a great resource. So you can join, it's maybe £60 a year. You can print, if you want to print, you can use online PowerPoints and games on their website. It's well worth it if you want to print stuff rather, or just use the online resources rather than buy workbooks. Also, as they get older, there is a website called Seneca, which has good online content and courses that they can complete. I'm not sure about whether or not they do Key Stage 1, so I'll look into that and maybe add something to the in the comments. The last thing, just to summarize, is that young children need time to play and develop those skills. And I think that really 10 to 20 minutes for English and math each is enough. You know, 5 times a week, that's enough in my mind when they're that young. You can add in the other subjects if you have time, or if you're doing a field trip or something like that. But again, keep the time where they're actually sitting focused, doing anything written or listening. You know, keep the time short so they can actually focus. Spend the rest of your time in maybe structured and non-structured play. They can be cooking, which is educational. They can cook with you. They can help learn how to do a household chore or something around, you know, a job around the house. Like, you know, for instance, helping learn how the parents, you know, change a bicycle tire or something like that. All of these are practical skills that actually can be educational. They are educational. Spend time visiting libraries, parks, meetups, home ed meetups, museums. So those all count towards educational time. And what I would do would be to keep a list of what you do daily. So if you haven't already started already, keep a diary where you write down what you've done that day. And with my kids, as they got older, I made a checklist where they could tick off what they had done. And that helped me to then prepare for the next week or then the next month, or also to prepare a written report when I had to file a report with the local education authority, which I'll get into another time. So anyway, I hope this helps you with the idea of how to structure your day. As I've kind of said, there isn't too much structure, and maybe that's surprising. You want to make sure there's enough, but not overload, because you're doing one-on-one tuition. You're working with the child, maybe one-on-one, maybe 1 to 2 if you have 2 children. And really, that is a lot more intensive in the learning time than you would have in a school where they have a lesson for maybe 50 minutes and there are 30 to 40 kids in the class. They're not going to get that individual attention the same as they would get at home with you one-on-one. So between 30 minutes to an hour a day, 30 minutes to 45 minutes a day is enough to accomplish that. And like I said, you focus on the math and English. If you haven't taken anything away from this except for that, that's what I would like you to take away from this video. Focus on math and English in the younger stages, and then plug in the rest of the subjects when you can. Okay, don't beat yourself up if you can't get them in every day. Okay, see you later.